Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Hope College, Coach Pete Stuursma. Before we get into Coach Stuursma's story, let's talk about Hope a little bit. Hope College is a private liberal arts college known for its strong academic programs and vibrant campus life, blending faith with intellectual exploration. It's located in Holland, Michigan. There's 3,200 students. The acceptance rate is 78%. The graduation rate is 80%. It's $57,000 before aid. It's $24,000 after aid. The top three majors at Hope College are business, psychology, and engineering. And again, if you want more of this information or more information about Hope, you can go to hope.edu. Talk to your guidance counselors, talk to your admissions counselors, talk to the coaches that are coaching you, talk to the coaches that are recruiting you, and talk with your family. And if this is something that you want to do, then check out the website. Now, Coach Stuursma has been at the helm of the Flying Dutchmen since 2016, and when he took the job, was already a pretty successful high school coach. He built the Hope program in the way of it's based in character, discipline, and competitiveness. And man, have they exceeded all of those so far in his tenure. Not my job to tell you about him and his story, though. It's his job to tell it. That's what we do here every week. So without further ado, this is Coach Stuursma. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Hope College, Coach Pete Stuursma. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Coach, we're going to do this the same way we do every week. I'm going to throw you in the time machine. We're going to work our way back from 1989 to today. But first and foremost, how did you find yourself in the fall of 1989 coming to Hope?
Well, yeah, and again, thanks for having us on and representing Hope College. It's a great place. But yeah, I was considering a lot of college hockey options and potentially even prep school to play hockey. And it kind of came down to in that spring of my senior year of, well, if I didn't get into this school for hockey, I'm going to go to Hope and play football for Ray Smith, who had been recruiting me, and I had enjoyed this place. And it's of course, very nearby my hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so that's how it kind of landed. Was if I didn't get that opportunity to play hockey, I was going to go play football, and that's how I got to Hope College.
And what was your playing days? What were they like? Is it still the same place that you were at in 1989?
It's very similar. The town has certainly grown, and I say this to recruits all the time. It's way better, the campus, from the standpoint of the beauty, the facilities. It still is it was a special place then. It's still a very special place today. But certainly things have changed, all for the positive. I mean, the Hope Nation across the nation, the orange and blue, is pretty thick, and it's pretty cool how much. And I always say, again, I say this a lot. When you say the words Hope College to someone, they always go, "Wow, it's a really good school." And I think that matters today. I think it matters that post-COVID, our enrollment has continued to just go up, whereas many college universities across the country, they've gone down. Right. I'm very proud of that because we still offer a really good product in a great town. I mean, our town is unbelievable. We're on the shores of Lake Michigan. We have a downtown streetscape that is just phenomenal. We're 30 minutes from Grand Rapids. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes from Chicago and 2 hours and 30 minutes from Detroit. It's really a neat place.
Now, Coach, as you're going through your playing career and whatnot, when does it start maybe setting in that you want to stay in the game? Because I also noticed, you get back into hockey too after you graduate. You're able to get to coach that as well. But when did you know that coaching was kind of what you wanted to do?
Yep, it's an easy answer. Sophomore year, first semester, I was in accounting and economics and things of that nature. And I remember looking at that supply and demand curve, and I'm like, whoa. It just wasn't adding up for me. It just wasn't something I was interested in. I enjoyed watching my father run his business, and my mom went back to law school when we were in the 8th grade. And so I thought that's what I wanted to do. it was very shortly thereafter that I spoke with Ray Smith was one, and our defensive coordinator at the time was Dean Krebs, who ended up being the head coach a year later, about coaching. And the minute I thought and about that and changed my major was when I knew I wanted to be in coaching and teaching, and it never changed from that point. I never felt like it's been a job. Certainly there are ups and downs of any job that you have, but I enjoy everything about what I do, and I get a chance to be around some incredible human beings.
Now, why, a lot of the coaches that I've talked to, their path was, they finish coaching and they jump right into the GA roles, and that product has kind of changed on how you get jobs there. Why for you was it to go back utilizing the your bachelor's and to go work at Forest Hills?
I actually had interviewed for some graduate assistant positions at Central Michigan, Michigan State, Michigan at the time. And at that time, they had also really taken the GAs model. It used to be 5, 6 GAs, and they squeezed it down to 2. Mm-hmm. And what they were doing with those 2 at that time were what analysts would be now at the Division I level. So that pool really became very small. Right. And I also I believe got great advice from people around me and said I needed to have my teaching certificate. And once I had that opportunity to teach, I loved it. I really, truly enjoyed my first teaching position at Forest Hills Public Schools. I was the head hockey coach. I was an assistant football coach in the varsity for a year, then the head freshman coach because I wanted to be a head coach and I wanted to be able to be in charge. And one of the greatest times of my life ever coaching was probably being the head freshman football coach, and because no one checked our scores on Friday, but obviously we had great dudes and we were very competitive. And I was a head hockey coach and enjoyed that. And then I in turn went to the University of Northern Colorado for a graduate assistant position with Joe Glenn, one of the greatest coaches you ever meet in the history of college football. He was just one of the greatest human beings I've ever been around. And he and his wife, Michelle, really took Amy and I under their wing and kind of were our parents away from our parents as we were young, and enjoyed that experience. Our wife, my wife, Amy, who is still to this day, it'll be 30 years this July. That's a stat I'll brag about, by the way. When he was supporting us on a teaching salary, and one of the greatest year of our life was being in the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, coached an unbelievable group of guys there. We were fortunate to win the national championship that year.
Now, Coach, first off, congratulations on 30 years.
Thank you.
How did being a head high school hockey coach prepare you for being a head coach? Because that's would you say hockey was your first love, I guess?
So hockey as a player was certainly my first love. When I started coaching the game of hockey, I realized that's a very unique sport, especially in the state of Michigan. First of all, it's a very long season. Number one. Number two, there's tremendous travel on the Friday, Saturday nights and weekends and things of that nature because we wanted to play a competitive schedule, felt that was important. I'm a structured person, so I like the structure of football. And then once I transitioned into that graduate assistant position in football, I knew that's what I wanted to do. But it did prepare me very well. I coached some really great kids and some good human beings that I still stay in touch with. Of course, that was a long time ago now, but I think coaching's coaching. Coaching is preparing a team, building a culture, being a part of a culture, realizing that I'm just a very, very small part of that particular puzzle. I think sometimes coaches get too much credit and too much blame. And I also think sometimes coaches think they're way smarter than they really are. I think if you surround yourself with really, really good players and really good coaches, you have a really good chance. I always believe that. So I think that's helped.
Now, Coach, after the year in Northern Colorado, why was 99 the right time to make your first stop back at your alma mater?
Timing is everything. Things happen for a reason. Opportunities existed. At that time, I was going to go be an NFL head coach, right? Like everybody, I was going to go do this or that. Opportunities, doors open, doors close, opportunities open. And I felt like I was so prepared in so many different ways. I guess a high compliment to Hope College, where I went to school, was when I was first evaluated as a teacher, evaluated in the class. My advising administrator said, "You've been trained well." And I thought that was a really nice compliment to not only Hope College, but then that kind of existed as I went further through my experiences, and doors opened, and some were great opportunities, and they were all great opportunities that existed in front of me. And I say be careful what you wish for. There was a time my wife and I were going back to Colorado to finish our degree, my degree and my master's degree, and I said, well, if I could be here, here, and here, that would be great. And all three of them happened to be sitting in my lap to make a decision. And so it just works out in a certain way. And I don't really look back and go, why did this and why did that? I'm really grateful for the opportunities that I had and grateful for the mentors that I had. Truly had a great, you probably, again, you talk to a lot of coaches, you've heard horror stories about GAs and you've heard these things. And I'm like, yeah, that's not my experience. I had unbelievable mentors and coached unbelievable dudes. Like, that's not my experience. It's really positive. But I'm a glasses half full person, but I can honestly tell you my experiences were really, truly positive.
Now, Coach, what is especially from your standpoint right now as the head guy, what is the interview like for a GA or for coaches that are working their way up a staff position or coordinator positions? What goes into that? Obviously, they got to know football, but what else are you looking at when you're having those meetings?
It's a great question. It's very similar to when I interviewed, etc. When I've interviewed any of our coaches, number one, I want to know what kind of person they are. Mm-hmm. I want to know the character of that human being. I want to know, when you peel back the onion, what are they like? I want to know how good they are at relating to young people. And I say relating, I mean teaching. Right. Can they actually teach? Can they teach the things that we need to do? And I don't just mean teaching concepts, X's and O's. You said it right. I very rarely get into all, I hear the Bill Belichick stories. He's got a 12-hour interview process. That's great. That's not what I believe. That's, not a 12-hour X's and O's guy. I want to know the character. I want to know how they teach. I want to know how they conduct their business. I want to know what it looks like when it gets hard, when life gets hard, when things come at you and how you respond. I want high energy, high positive people. I'm sorry, but I can't be around people that are negative. I can't be around people that drain energy. I don't want it. Right. Sorry. Like if that's what you're going to be, I don't want that. And I don't want people like me because shoot, could you imagine? I always say to our team, could you imagine being married to me for 30 years? Like, that'd be crazy. But I don't necessarily need that. I want people that are going to question the things we do. I stopped calling the plays about, I was a head high school coach for 16 years and I stopped calling the plays about 10 years in. And it actually came from a high school coach out of Minnesota when we were at a deal in Canton, Ohio for the NFL. And he said, it'll only impact you. And if it's better for your program, it's what's best for your program. Right. And I'd say to this day, I think if you hire really great coaches and you recruit really good players and you build an outstanding culture, I think things look really good for you. I am not the smartest guy in the room. In fact, I'm probably the dumbest guy in the room every time I walk into the room. I think a head coach at the college level that calls plays, good for him. That's awesome. I think that's a great skill. I don't think that's my skill set. I don't know how some of them find the time to do all the things that I have to do as a head coach and put as much time in to be the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Right. That's why I've hired coordinators that we have for both offense, defense, and special teams, as well as a strength and conditioning coordinator. You hire good people, good things happen. You recruit good players, good things happen.
And as we're going to find out here later on in the show, good things are happening in Hope right now. Now you mentioned that you spent 16 years as a head high school football coach. Why, after the 16 years, was it time to come back and take the head job?
Let me start with this. My time at East Grand Rapids High School as the head football coach there, that's where I played. Followed the coach that I played for. He's there for 30 years, won 3,000 games. I don't know about how many games, he won a ton of them. Wow. But I took over in 2000. And I was in a town that loves kids, loves academics, loves sports, loves winning. I can count on about 3 fingers the amount of parent issues we had there because they wanted us to treat their sons very, very well, push them as hard as we could, be honest and upfront with them. And it helped that we had some success there, but we had really good players. It was a and I don't mean to underscore this enough, or I do mean to underscore this enough. It was a hard decision to leave. I got a phone call from Hope, and I thought they wanted me to be on the interview committee or to support their committee for the next head football coach here. And it turns out they wanted me to be the head coach. And I'm not going to lie to you. When I took that job, it was hard. But the first thing I did was talk to my wife and our 3 children and all of our kids. And my wife is just the most supportive human being in the world. They said, "Yeah, Dad, we want you to do it, but we don't want to move." We didn't move our family. We stayed in the same hometown. They continued at East Grand Rapids. I left in the middle of our daughter's sophomore year, middle of her sophomore year. My middle son's 8th grade year, and our youngest 5th grade year, right in the middle of the year in January. And I loved my job. I was a middle school principal at that time and the head football coach in a town that cares about what I just mentioned.
Education and football and school and sports.
Everything. They care about it all. And we were fortunate to win 7 state titles there. And again, that's because we had really good players. But it was an opportunity. You know, they always say you can't go home. You can't go back home. I went home twice. Went back to East Grand Rapids and came back to Hope. And, you know, it's I tell this story all the time. I'm driving to my first day, February 1, 2016. I'm ripping down the highway. I'm probably driving too fast. And there was some construction on the highway. It's about 20 minutes out of town of my 30-minute drive. And the construction sign on the left said rough road ahead. And I tell that story because I think it's very appropriate for young people to this day. Is I could have gotten off the highway at the next exit, turned back around, called the superintendent, said, "Hey, I'm coming back. There's no chance I'm taking this job. I put my family in a tailspin. I want to come back." And call Hope. "Hey, sorry, you got the wrong guy," whatever. But I just said rough road ahead. You got to trust the automobile you drive, the conditions, and trust that good things are going to work out and be okay. It's going to be okay. And have a little faith in some things. And it turns out that it was an outstanding and fun educational opportunity. But it's been really, really cool because 2 of our 3 children have gone through and graduated from Hope.
So 2 of your 3 children on top of you now are Hope alums.
Along with my wife and our youngest son's a sophomore year.
Wow. Oh, so it's a whole family of Hope.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, that our oldest daughter was like, "No chance I'm going to Hope, Dad. You take up a lot of space there. Like, you're kind of loud. And as you can tell, I've got a little bit of juice." And we're like, "Fine, go where we're going to go." And it turns out she loved it. And then Robbie our middle one was a baseball player, and he played 4 years for Coach Fritz, a legend in baseball. And I'll tell you, felt pretty lucky to be able to be a head coach at a place where your son plays, because I could walk out of my office like, today's a beautiful Wednesday. If they were playing today, we would not have had spring practice. We would have had it yesterday. I would have walked out, watched him play, and driven home, where everybody else has to drive to that.
Right.
And then our youngest doesn't play any sports, but here at Hope, actually, but he's, you know, going to school and loving it.
Now, Coach, let's talk about Hope. What is a Hope guy? Obviously, the guy got to be able to play football, and he's got to have a good character, because you've already told us what you're looking for in people. But what is that conversation like with a player, with their parents? What are they getting when they talk to you as they're trying to make the decision on whether to come to Hope or not?
I'm going to tell them that I'll put what we do up against anybody in the United States of America, how we're going to treat their son, how we're going to push him as hard as we can possibly push him to be the very best, so that he can go through a 4-year degree, get a 4-year experience, so that he can get a degree, graduate, and get a job.
Right.
Get a job. Like, let's cut to the chase. This is about him getting a job. If something works out outside of that, whether it be in pro sports to play, that's going to come to an end at some point as well. But it's my job to make sure that he gets the best opportunity experience, so that he can put himself in a position to get a job. Mm-hmm. Our guys, we had 26 seniors walk across that field on senior day this past fall. And I think at that time, 22 of them had job offers.
Wow.
You know, our starting quarterback is going to dental school at Southern Illinois. Our starting middle linebacker is going to dental school at Michigan. Our starting left guard is going to Michigan Medical School to be a neurosurgeon. Our starting right tackle finished his 5th year, is in D.C. working for an engineering company. Our starting left tackle was teaching special education during the season and has a full-time teaching position, obviously in the fall, and currently right now teaching special education. Our guys are getting jobs.
Right.
So what does that look like? I want to provide that experience and that platform for them to use their God-given abilities to play in the football field, to leverage that to get a job, so that they can go be employed. If you're an engineer major here at Hope, 6 weeks after graduation, 100% of you will have a job. If you're a business major, 97% of you will have a job. If you're an education major, you're going to probably come back and coach with us in that following fall, do your student teaching, and then you're going to get a job. We have a guy that I want to stay, that I was just talking to his principal just the other day. They're going to hire him. They're going to hire him. And I'm like, I don't want you to hire him because I want him to get him off. Of course, hire him because he's an unbelievable kid. And so I'm going to tell parents, like, look, our model of recruiting is going to be, we're going to get the best 35 to 40 guys that we can to have 125 on a roster. Many schools our size, Division III and Division II, are recruiting numbers to get as many people as you can into that program because it's about money. It's about tuition and finances. And I'm saying, I don't want to do that. I want us to have a model that is succinct, a model that is, we're not going to be perfect and we're not going to be right on everybody. But we want guys that want to ball out. We don't have a JV program here. I want to recruit guys to play on Saturday afternoons in the pageantry of college football.
Right.
So that's what I say in a nutshell. And a lot more than that, but that's a nutshell.
Well, I appreciate you letting us be a small fly on the wall for that. Now, Coach, there's a lot of changes, a lot of moving parts that have happened here in the last couple of years in Division III. The iPad addition to the sideline, the expansion to the playoffs. I hear there's some conversation about maybe extending spring ball. Should we extend spring ball? So let's unpack all that. First, the iPad situation. How do you feel about it? Did you guys utilize it? Is it something that's going to launch other things, replay or et cetera, into the Division III level?
Yep. So first of all, I'm a big fan of innovation and technology. When I was a high school coach, we had iPads on the sidelines at that time. We could go into the locker room and have cameras in 2 different rooms, have offense in one and defense in the other, and you could pull up plays and talk about that and teach them. So when I came to Hope, we didn't have it at the NCAA. I was like, well, where are these? We didn't have it. So then when it came in, I would tell you that because the legislation, it was agreed upon late. Most Division III schools got a late jump on that. And so it was a little clunky at the beginning, but anything that's going to help us teach our players to see things in a better way, I'm all for it. So I think the teaching component of that is really cool. We were at a Division I program last week, and they have 4 jumbotrons on either side of their 2 on one side, 2 on the other of their indoor facility. They would run a play, and the staff and the team could look up and watch the replay of the play that they just ran. Now, obviously, there's finances to that, but to me, we looked at it like, wow, what a great teaching opportunity. Because instead of me going, well, why did you do that? We both looked, okay, hey, yeah, you're good. That was good. That was good. Great route. Great, great pickup there. Great footwork. You did the right thing. That was a great decision you made there. So I look at it, or like, hey, eye in the sky doesn't lie.
Right.
That was proof. I got you, coach. Yeah, my bad. I thought that was phenomenal. So I'm going to sum that up by saying, if that is a teaching opportunity for us to make our players better, I think that plays into their hands, because let's face it. I really don't like it when people say, oh, I'm too old for that. No, you better not say that. You better figure it out, because that's what our young people are using, and the innovations and the things like that. It moves fast. And I look at it as, can we leverage that as a teaching component to help us be more successful? I'm all for it.
Well, and then the other side of adding it is, I've talked to a couple other coaches so far this season. Does that bring replay in? These kids are guaranteed 40 games a year. We have a targeting rule that could cost a senior, God forbid, but in their, let's say, game 9, they get called for a penalty in the second half. Well, now game 10, which could possibly be the last game of their career, they're out for the first half because the way the rule's written. Now, do you think that, and I know there are some things, they can go look at halftime at some places, they review it, there's an appeal process, but isn't the goal to get it right in real time so that we can keep, and do you think that because of this technology, do you think we'll see replay kind of work its way down to the Division III level?
I absolutely do. I think you said it right. I think there's too much at stake. And you said it right. It's from our level, it's not the financial pieces that are at stake. It's the human component, which is, and it's also a 10-game season. So you missed one bit of that. You missed a game. That's 1/10 That's a big deal.
Right.
And I'll give you an official perspective. I was reffing a high school game at the tail end of my career at the high school level, and a guy was doing a Friday night game. He was also a Division I official. He happened to be just subbing for someone that night. Of course, when you have someone like that, he
pick
makes
his
a
brain.
call. I kind of disagreed with him. He came over and said, he goes, my bad, coach. He goes, but if I make that call to Division I got the replay to back me up. And I was like, that's an interesting perspective. I really appreciated his candor, but also to realize, like, I can make a call that I see because this game is moving fast. But they're making a call at really fast time, and to know that that replay might help you out, I don't think there's a person that would be against that. I think they all want. I have great respect for officials. Now, officials tell you I can get after them too, but I have great respect for them. They're trying to give us their best too.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big change when I made that jump from high school to colleges. Boy, those officials are really trying to give you their very best. There are some other things that are going on in college football that are probably from a negative standpoint of, I mean, everything's a first down. Now we don't even measure. It's just first down, keep moving, things like that. But from the replay, I think it's coming to the game at our level for sure. Now,
the other big one, I guess, in 2025 was the expansion of the playoffs. There's 240 teams, 226 teams, I think it is, somewhere in
246, I think, in Division III, yeah.
So our percentage wasn't right before the addition. I think the expansion was long overdue. I've talked to some people that maybe there's a question on the automatic qualifiers and stuff like that, but where do you fall with the expansion? And obviously it's going to be a little bit of tinkering and working it out, and you're never going to make everybody happy. So where do you fall on the expansion side of things and the, some of these conferences with the automatic qualifiers, how does that all play into it?
Yep. Well, let me start with this. I think you said it right from the get-go, and that is we were from a per sport, 246 for how many were in the tournament, we were off on a ratio of all the NCAA, lowest in the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they wanted to right-size that. And I give them credit. It took a long time, but they right-sized that. I will also tell you, we were in a few of my years of being here, we finished second in our league, and we were all potential as an at-large bid. And you know what I said is, look, we don't want to depend on that to get a bid. We didn't do what we were supposed to do by the rules of the game. Because we've had it both ways. We won the league and got the automatic bid. We didn't get a bid, and we had one of the toughest schedules in the country. Right. And again, I said, look, the rules were set out, and we didn't win our league, so we didn't maybe deserve a chance to go. We can all complain. That's what gives shows like yours a big following, websites and all that. We didn't do what we were supposed to do. This past year, we won our league, so we knew it was an automatic bid. But when they added those teams, I think now that the ratios are similar to other NCAA sports, boy, we're getting closer to getting it right, aren't we?
Yeah.
And, I think there's never going to be a perfect system. We're always, and I've always had this stance because when I was a high school coach, we went 5-4 and didn't get in. And the reporter asked me, he said, well, that's not fair because you guys played the toughest schedule. Actually, it was the third toughest in the entire state. And I said, the rules say you have to do this and you have to do this. And we didn't. That's life.
Makes sense.
And, but so we can all complain, but I think we are closer and closer to getting it right. Obviously, we benefited from an automatic bid. I couldn't actually answer your question as to who should get the automatics and who shouldn't, because there's so many leagues, I can't pay enough attention to what the strength of that particular league is over that one versus that one, if that
makes sense. Makes sense. Now, Coach, let's talk about scheduling, because I know that's a big thing for Division III programs specifically, is that, week one, it's pretty easy. Everybody's on this kind of the same tilt. Week two, it becomes a little bit harder to schedule a non-conference game. Week three almost is very difficult. I know a lot of schools that becomes like the NAIA, the Division II schools. What goes into putting a schedule together, and how hard is it when you have 2 or 3 non-conference games?
Yeah. So let me start with this, is that Andrew Hawkins, our offense coordinator, came from Michigan State, actually a really good player there, but also a GA there. He works with our scheduling and has planned it out through 27 already. And I think he's got even some for 28. And so it's a lot of contacts, a lot of phone calls. And it's also, what is the travel time? What's the cost of that? What's the home? You want to try to balance it out and go 5 and 5 home, 5 away.
Mm-hmm.
You want to look at, of course, your strength of schedule for sure, but you also got to be delicate about that, is that you don't want to beat yourself up in the non-league as you prepare for the league and put all your eggs in that basket. It's a balance to that. There's not a right answer to it. Everybody's got a different philosophy. I think what we have learned in this new system is that when they were running the computer models, they said, hey, plan a Division II school won't hurt you or help you. I'm not so sure that that's true anymore with the new system. Well, 2 years ago, North Central played a really powerhouse Division II school, and then they were the number one team in the country, and they were on the road for the playoffs. That doesn't seem to make sense either.
Right.
But I think, again, we're closer to that, but the scheduling component is challenging. It is a balance. It is you often get a lot of like conferences, and we have a nice agreement with the Heartland where that week is open for that crossover, which I hope we just continue that because that helps us with the scheduling conflicts. Having the bye in the mid, we had the bye 2 years in a row in the last week of the season. That was challenging for us because we were like, this was 2 years ago. We were really in the hunt for an at-large bid. We had the third strongest strength of schedule. We had to practice in that bye week and then wait to see what would happen.
Right.
So that's a challenge. Having the bye week in the middle, to me, is incredibly helpful for your players and for your coaches. But all those are challenges that I don't have a great answer to. I know there's plenty of other smarter people than me that have all these formulas and all that, but I think we're closer to having a system that works.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting you said the difficulty of having your bye week at the end of the season. Not only is it difficult because you're kind of in that waiting pattern, but you also have to run a gauntlet of 10 weeks of ball before you can get bumps, bruises, a mental break, any of that. So
100%. Yep, you're right on.
Now, Coach, let's talk real quick. Spring ball is upon us. What is the biggest difference between spring ball at the Division III level and then the spring ball that we get at Division I and Division II? And will that change?
Yep. So let me go back to when I was a high school coach. In the summertime, we could do 7-on-7 and we wore helmets. Why?
Right.
So that if I went up against you, we didn't mash our noses. When I came to college football Division III, they weren't allowed to wear helmets. And I said, look, guys, like, we're not going to smack without pads on, but I just want to protect the faces. Yeah. Just going up for a ball. So finally we got that in a few years later, that came in. And then, of course, it's always one of those things. Once you open the door, everybody's going to want to pile through and just get more and more and more. And then they added the 4 padded days. And obviously you can't scrimmage, you can't have a spring game, you can't do any of those things. But the padded days I think they're solid to be able to teach certain techniques, right? And to be able to have some of that from a training standpoint, from a safety standpoint. Now, that being said, what is the difference between ours and at the higher level? Well, at the higher level, of course, it's way more physical. I also think, though, they have an advantage in this and that in their off-season conditioning program, they can have their whole coaching staffs at the Division I level training those guys in their football simulated drills, which then prepare you for spring ball in football simulated drills. We're only permitted to have our guys lift with our strength coach. We're not even permitted to be there. And so I think that's an advantage, the physical part. But even the Division I's that we've been at 2 Division I practices over the last couple of weeks is one was with pads, one was without. You're really not seeing that old school physical just bashing into people because there's too much at stake. Injuries are too, I think coaches and teams and programs are really doing a good job of practicing at a high level without the banging. And so will we ever see that? I don't know. I feel like as a high school coach coming to college level, I wanted the helmets. The 4 padded days are a bonus. There's some unintended consequences that you've probably heard: athletic training, facility use, all those things play into all that. And, again, I don't think that's like A1 on my worry list right now. Will we get more? Can we scrimmage more? Can we that's not it. I want to use spring ball as a way to, number one, we want to have some fun getting back. I was going bonkers yesterday. The game of football, like, it's awesome. But we have just helmets, no pads, but that's one. Number two, we want to teach the concepts of what we do. We want to stay healthy, right? And we want to develop our younger players. Pretty simple goals for them.
I think you hit the nail on the head too, with most coaches aren't running their guys out there, especially in a spring practice. And we're not doing bull in the ring, so to speak. We're not doing Oklahomas. That's not it's and some of the other coaches I've talked to so far this season, they've said, it's the only sport where you can't be your sport until you get to the 10 weeks, 12 weeks of your sport. Every other sport, you pick up a basketball, you pick up a soccer ball, you pick up a baseball and a glove. Football, well, we'll give you a football and all right, you can wear helmets, but don't you be getting too excited out there.
Right. Yep.
So,
yep.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to, that is what it is. And I think we've made good transitions into that point. I don't know if in my time of being a head coach, we'll see more contact, if you will, in spring ball for Division III.
Makes sense. Coach, honestly, kind of want to just pick your brain on I know today was kind of a big day at the Division III level, as I believe, it's Division I St. Francis is going to make their move down. My question isn't so much about them. Do you think that they're the opening of a floodgate? Do you think we will see more teams come down?
That's a great question. We were talking about that as a staff, because I know that I saw that same thing, and I heard some comments and read some comments. Well, there's going to be more where that came from. Let me back, and I'm going to come back to that question. When the portal and NIL and the things that I'm seeing in college football, we can say what we want about it. The train's left the station. It's going. It's not turning around.
Right.
It is what it is. But it also makes me, as a head football coach at Division III level, double down on what we do. We're here to provide the very best experience we possibly can, so we can train and be a part of young men, to build them into young men, to be great dads and great husbands, and contribute to society so they can get a job. Right. Mm-hmm. That hasn't changed. I'm going to double down on that. We're bound by NCAA rules of the number of hours we get to spend with our guys, and downtime, right, and fall camp, and days that we hit in fall camp, we can't hit the next day, and all those things, right? And so I'm doubling down on what we do and on what I believe in as a football coach, and the way you can train young men. And so, that being said, I guess I just see that football is such a unique experience for young people. And I think the structure, the discipline, and the things that it teaches just is so fun to watch. And it's so rewarding to watch. Mm-hmm. And it gives me great pause to see what's going on around us in Division I. NIL, $10-11 million a year. Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Good for that. That's awesome. I mean, like, I'm all about name, image, and likeness and creating value. I'm going to say this, like, I don't think that's what name, image, likeness was released for.
I don't think so.
You could just have a bidding war for everybody else. It was to create value. I always use the Michael Jordan example, like, the movie Air or whatever it's called. Like, Michael Jordan was one of the first to say, I want to create value for my name, mm-hmm. my image, and my likeness. I think that is awesome. And I think kids at whatever level, if they can create value for themselves, is awesome. Not so sure that's what this was intended to do, though, is the way it's going right now.
I don't think so either. I also don't think that they foresaw it getting this far down the track before you realized, oh, well, maybe we forgot a conductor or somebody. So, Coach,
that's be a tough train to turn around.
It is. And I more and more every day you hear that conversation of, well, we got to do this and we got to do that. We're a little past that. You've already gone so far down the road that, short of derailing and coming back and restarting, and I don't see that happening. You can't, to use a cliche, you can't put the genie back in the bottle once it's out.
Correct.
So
You're right.
Coach, let's talk about 2024. What was your takeaway now that the season is over? We're rolling into 2025. We're getting ready to finish out this semester. 11-1 overall, 7-0 in the conference. 2 big wins in the tournament, and then the third round loss to North Central. What was your takeaway after the season calmed down and you had time to kind of let everything settle?
Well, first of all, that's the way you can. That's really, and you ask any coach, you really can enjoy it during the season. When you get away from it is when you get to reflect and look back. And the first thing that jumps out is we had a great group of young men that they just had an incredible will to win. I said this in the press conference after the game we lost to North Central. They took us on an incredible journey, incredible ride. And there was no drama. There was very little drama in our program. There wasn't like we went through these huge adverse things that people talk about. Our guys showed up every day and went to work. They cared about each other. They loved each other. they had a great chemistry and culture. And we also had the highest GPA we've had since I've been at Hope, and a 3.37 average team GPA. Like, I'll put that up against anybody in the country. It's unbelievable. They took us on a great ride, and we got beat by a better team. I said it again, the post-game press conference. Got beat by a better team that day. We made 3 mistakes. We threw a pick before half. We dropped the ball coming out of the half. We threw a pick in the end zone. And that's not the only reason. They were a better football team than us. Look, they won the national championship. They've been there, 4 out of 5 times or 3 out of 4 times in the last 4 years. They're a really good football team, well coached, and they play hard. That's they're a standard that we want to achieve. And so my reflections are obviously very positive, but they also, as coaches do this, is like, okay, that doesn't score 1 point for us next year, doesn't stop 1 yard from being gained against us. So what are we going to do in the offseason? And I'm a very compartmental, belief-driven person, and that is, so the offseason was our phase 2. Mm-hmm. Phase 1 was that holiday break after the season where you're going to lift, you're going to be lifting away from us. Then that phase 2 is our strength and conditioning program. We're in phase 3 right now. That's all I'm worried about. Phase 4 is going to be the summer. Phase 5, that's coming back in fall camp. So I'm just worried about spring ball right now, but it's what we always try to pride ourselves as. What can we do to get better as a team, as an individual, as a coaching staff, the way we conduct our business every single day? We get very few opportunities to go out there, but I mean, it's unbelievable the fact that we get to go out and coach a great game of football. Yeah, it's tiring. It's this, it's that. I was speaking in front of a group of business people, and I had this woman in the front row raise her hand, and she said, "Gosh, it must be fun to coach college football." I said, "Do you like your job every day?" She said, "Well, no, it's a job." I said, "Well, so was mine." And I said, "The livelihood of me depends on on the success of 18 to 22-year-olds." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Remember, the male brain is not fully developed till 25 years of age." She goes, "Oh, well, that doesn't sound like much fun." And I said, "No, there's times when it's up, it's down, it's all around, but it's incredibly rewarding to see what our guys are doing." And my wife and I have the luxury of going to 10, 12 weddings every summer and just seeing our guys doing great things, and so proud of them. Like, I just gush about our guys. You can call me corny, call me cheesy, call me whatever you want, but I love our guys. I love what they do.
Well, it shows 26 seniors walking across the field on senior day. I'd put that up against a lot of programs out there, because it's just not something that we're seeing a lot. Maybe 10 years ago, but in today's everybody moving and whatnot, 26 seniors walking across the field is an accomplishment in and of itself. The GPA itself, I mean, there's a lot of things to gush about these guys at Hope.
Yeah, and they're also going and getting great jobs, so there's a lot to gush about. You're right.
Coach, you touched a little bit on the previous question, more just to focus in on the Division III side. What is, as a Division III head coach, what's the significance of Division III for you?
Providing an opportunity for our guys to use their God-given abilities in a platform so that they can go on 4 years later, maybe 5, depending on the institution you're at, to be able to go do what we all know needs to be done in our world. And I'll say it this way, is that I'm just going to say it. If our world out there acted like our locker room, we'd have a pretty good world out there, wouldn't we? Because you got a lot of different places, all shapes and sizes, different religious backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, different skin colors, all those things. And they kind of find a way, with obviously guidance and things of coaching staffs, but they find a way to walk through that locker room door to go do something together. It's a pretty good model, isn't it?
That's a pretty good answer, Coach. That's a pretty good answer. What would you say the message is for 2025? Obviously, we're in phase 2. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but what would the message be heading into 2025?
Build off of the positives that we learned from 2024. Realize that we want to be a drama-free team. Drama-free means there's going to be things that are difficult and challenging. Welcome to life. Welcome to being part of a family, right? Did you have a perfect family? I didn't. Nope. Right? But there's going to be things that we have to be able to handle, withstand, when, it's like, how do you build culture? You put something in the middle of the room and you pour water into it, and then there's going to be little leaks and things like that. If you keep pouring water, it never goes empty, right?
Right.
And so our message is, it's build off of the positives and that energy, and realizing this, that we're a whole different team. there's new faces, there's new places and things that we have to replace. And how we respond to that and how we interact with each other every single day is a chance to go get better. And that's our messaging. And you could ask me 16 different ways, and I'm still going to say, you know what my focus is right now? Spring ball.
Right.
We didn't practice today. So how did our players get better? Because we can't be with them today. How did they get better in the classroom? When we see them tomorrow and we have meetings and practice, because it's a practice meeting day, are we going to get better? And how can we adjust our schedule to give them the most optimal chance so that they can succeed? We very specifically set up spring ball so that we're done the weekend prior to their final week of classes so that they can finish that 5 day of classes and then have finals.
Right.
Well, why did we do that? Because our players gave us feedback that that's what they wanted. So that's what we do. Because I believe feedback is, maybe you should listen to your players sometime. A lot of coaches, well, it's my way or the highway. Well, that's stupid. Maybe they've got a better way. Some of these guys are, hey, that dude that's going to Michigan to study neurosurgery, he's smarter than I am, so I might listen to him.
Well, I was going to say, Coach, you got some pretty smart, from what you told us at the beginning of the episode, you got some pretty smart guys on that team.
Yes, and that's why I listen. And we got smart coaches. That's why I listen to all those guys.
All right, Coach. Well, now it's the Fast Five. This stuff has nothing to do with football. It's just about you.
Okay.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Florida, Key West. Love Key West. Love the weather. My parents had a place there. Love that place.
What is the most important lesson that you've learned over your career?
People matter. You win with people.
I like that. If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
Being a podcast. No, I don't know. That's a great question. Something involving the leadership of people, being around people, young people. I just love being around people. It energizes me. It gives me juice. Talking to people, talking to you gives me juice.
You got me ready to run through a wall. So I don't know if that one last year eligibility's worth anything, but I'll run through a wall tomorrow.
I love it.
Best compliment you've ever received?
He cared.
Best insult you ever received?
Cared about me as a person, not just a player.
And on the other side of compliments, best insult you've ever received?
Boy, maybe when someone said to me like, you pushed me too hard, or you read the tea leaves on me the wrong way when I was younger. That hurts. Hits you hard. Like, yeah, I learned from that. I coached a young man in high school who is currently playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. His name is Luke Glendenning. And he and I, to this day, we just saw him a week ago, he and his wife, Paige. But he and I had a couple situations in high school that were challenging. And I may have been too hard on him at that time. Mm-hmm. I consider him a dear friend. He's in my foxhole to this day, and I'm in his. So I think that was a learning opportunity. Sometimes when you're young, we do things or say things that are, sometimes my mouth gets ahead of me. But I would say that the learning lessons, we can still learn from our players. We can still learn from, if you and I hit record, take the button off, I could learn something from you about other coaches. And I think the day that we stop doing that's the day I get out of this damn business.
I don't think you could say it any better there. Now, the last question's a little interesting. It's not a little interesting. It's just worded funny.
Okay.
Was there a question that you were expecting me to ask you? And if so, how would you have answered it?
Interesting. That's a great question. I thought that you were going to ask me a question more about the transfer portal and what's going on in divisions ahead of us. And I've met Tom Izzo a number of times. He just did a really cool thing. He went on a bit of a rant. And you know what? He's probably earned that right. He could probably have sat there for 2 hours and everybody would have listened. I will also remind you, he has an entirely larger platform than what you and I have. Mm-hmm. So I often believe that the platform for which you're given gives you an opportunity. And I thought you were going to ask me about that. And I would tell you that I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but I think that there's going to be some things that we will see have to happen to protect the game of football at the highest level. I don't have any data on this. I've never seen more coaches leave college football to go to the NFL, where we used to look at that and go, that's crazy town. It's crazy. Like, you work thousands of hours, blah, blah, blah. There are guys leaving college football to go to the NFL because there's more maybe structure.
Mm-hmm.
There's more guardrails. You can't talk to a coach until they're done with the playoffs. If you're on the other team and someone calls you, that's tampering. You're going to get fined millions of dollars.
Right.
So I think there's going to be some changes and guardrails. And let's just call it what it is. It's a $1 billion business at the highest. Don't call it anything else, please.
Right.
Because there's a lot of money involved. And there might be a time when we see a big group separate out and they have their own show. And you have everybody else that's going to play college football.
It's interesting. So we could head to not a semi-pro league, but a semi-pro. They're going to go and kind of, and there's a couple conferences that you can look at right now, and it would make a lot of sense because they are who they are. But then you would kind of, to my question of, are we going to see more of these Division I schools leaving and trying to drop down? Maybe we wouldn't see that because there would be a place
Correct.
for them to compete.
But think about the 105 rule that's coming into effect. We're now going to a roster limit of 105 where they're talking about the rev sharing and potential minimum NIL deals and staff limitations now might be pulled off of the Division I. But well, guess what? That's moving in a direction towards what the NFL. You can say what you want about the NFL and that shield. That's a $10 billion business,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can say that, boy, they come down on some silly things. Yep, they want you to wear the same socks.
Yeah.
They want you to wear the same color shoes. They want you to wear shiny helmets that have the same logos. I don't know. There's some arguments that would say maybe they're onto something there. That's why they make $10 billion.
Yeah. Their business model works.
It does work. And those the individuals that are fortunate enough to play at that level, boy, do they put themselves in harm's way to and I don't care what they get paid because they put themselves in harm's way.
Right.
But that model somehow is continuing to build and grow. And so we might see some of that in college.
Well, Coach, I want to say thank you very much for taking your time out of a nice off day. I'm glad I caught you on an off day, but I want to say thank you for taking your time and teaching us about Hope College and about you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for what you put into Division III football. It matters. It means something to those of us that are involved. So thank you.
I appreciate it, Coach, and we will be right back.
Government officials insist that this an isolated incident demonstrates the tactics of perhaps we will continue to keep you informed as this story unfolds. That's part of the beat instead many scientists have begun studying the virus. Council of Medical. Overwhelmed medical emergency. Coming to ask if you come in contact with the infected, please get medical attention.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.